immigrants take jobs from Australians. Do you agree or disagree with this? Australia has become more culturally diverse over the years because of immigration. Do you see it as a good thing? Hey my friends, I'm Zach. Today I got a chance to interview an 84-year-old Australian to ask, will immigration ruin Australia in 2025? Let's dive into the conversation and see what we talked about. Do you think Australia should have more or less immigrants in 2025?
In 2025, I think we need to reduce immigration, mainly because of the housing problem. We're not building enough houses fast enough to accommodate the people that we have here already, particularly people at the lower middle level of our working society. We need to have more houses available at a lower price so that people like nurses, police, fire brigade, anyone who works in the city can live in a nice house closer, which they can afford to buy. And that's a problem for us here in Sydney right now. And it depends on how our government reacts to this situation. We've got a lot of land, a lot of open spaces, but we don't have all of the infrastructure necessary to support the population in some places. So building houses without traffic, roads, water supply, sewerage, all of the things, the shops, the schools, everything that needs to keep a community going. It's no good just building house after house after house and no infrastructure, no railway lines, transport. So we have to develop our infrastructure along with the housing, and also we may not be able to build as many houses on the ground. We might have to start going up to have more housing like you see behind us here, where people can afford to buy an apartment and still live near a park like this, close to the city, close to where they work, and close to light rail for commuting backwards and forwards from work to home. And so we need to get a balance. Yeah. It's not just a matter of getting more and more people from overseas, from anywhere overseas, and Australia has been doing that for over 250 years now. We're a country of migrants, so there's no issue with having migrants come here, but we have to have the right balance between new people coming in and the people who are already here so that we don't become overpopulated too quickly. So I think that's the main issue for migration in 2025. You can come back and interview me again in 2035. I might have a different answer.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, like housing price, do you think immigration play a big role in this issue?
Yes, it certainly does, because if you go to an auction for housing, you see the number of people who are there. There are a lot of people from overseas bidding at a higher price at the open auction. So it's fairly obvious that there are a lot of people who are buying as an investment. They're not buying because they need to live there now. And many cases we can see buyers' agents buying up 5, 6 more apartments and housing. They're not buying them up for themselves. They're buying as agents for overseas investors. And that adds to the problem of finding houses for people who are living here now, working here now, and need accommodation right now. So the balance between an economic decision for investing for profit as opposed to buying a house to live in is in conflict.
Yeah, makes sense. How was the housing price like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and compared to the housing price currently?
Well, I can go back further than that. I can go back 80 years because I'm that old. I can tell you decade by decade by decade as it moved, particularly from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Housing prices have gone up, of course. Also, a lot of housing expectations have gone up. People who were happy with a small house in 1950 with 3 or 4 children in a 3-bedroom house now want more, and they expect more. And also with, I mentioned infrastructure, electrical energy, where in those days people had electric lighting, maybe an electric stove, but not much more. Now we've got 5 televisions in every house. We've got air conditioning, we've got electric cars, we've got so many people with demands for electricity. That's part of the infrastructure that we need to keep in balance with the population. But people's expectations, even very poor people, expect more now than they did in the 1940s, 50s, 60s and so on. So that changes.
Yes. Some people say immigrants take jobs from Australians. Do you agree or disagree with this?
I disagree with that. I think the immigrants that come to Australia contribute to our workforce, especially skilled people. I'm not talking necessarily about doctors and engineers and people like that. I'm talking about tradespeople who know how to build houses. Somebody who can work with concrete, timber, carpenters, electricians. We need the people who are able to build the infrastructure we need. And traditionally, over the last 250 years or so, they've all come from overseas. Even my family, a long time ago, were immigrants. That was in the 19th century, so it was quite a while ago. So my family have been here a long time, but nevertheless, they brought schools to Australia in 1823. So we still appreciate the fact that many of our tradespeople and many people from overseas go to university, and our current lifestyle often depends on people who have technical qualifications at the higher end, doctors, nurses, people who work all the electronic equipment associated with medical science, which never existed only a few years back. Different types of imaging equipment and all of that sort of thing depends on people with technical training, education. So we need people that cover all of these areas in our society.
Australia has becoming more culturally diverse over the years because of immigration. Do you see it as a good thing?
Australia's been getting more and more culturally diverse for all of its European history. You can ask any of the original people here about migration because they've been here for 6,000 years, and everything you see here now, the European part of Australia, is all based on migration. And it's not necessarily something new. Maybe we're feeling it, understanding it more now, but in my lifetime, and I go back to World War II, after World War II, the migration from all over the world. There was, waves of migration, ships full of people coming in from Italy, Greece, all over Europe, because they could see a better life in Australia than what they were going to have in Europe. So you can start your migration story in 1945 and then work forward to the other wars that occurred in Vietnam. We have a lot of Vietnam people, and we do have large numbers of people coming in from many parts of Asia. Each bring cultural diversity. As an Australian, I would ask them to bring all the good things about their cultural background. We welcome that, but I would also ask them to adopt to Australian way of life as quickly as they are able to. Maybe not the first generation because it's older and people have more difficulty learning language and learning customs and so on. But the good parts of living in Australia can be quickly adopted by the next generation and generations after that.
Thank you for watching. What do you think of this topic? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to interview more elder Australians to hear their thoughts on this. If you have any suggestions or any other types of videos you would like me to make, drop them in the comments as well. See you next time.